ships add to.
Water pollution.
Cruise ships add to.
Ecosystem failure.
Cruise ships add to.
Climate disruption.
Cruise ships add to.
People know that climate change is happening, but don't seem to be taking responsibility or even paying attention. June 10th, 2022, 16 days ago, Smithsonian Magazine published an article titled, "Carbon Dioxide Levels Now Higher Than Ever in Human History." NOAA's Hawaiian Observatory measured a concentration of 421 parts per million of carbon dioxide last week. The climate organization 350.org was named after the concentration that we didn't want to go over. Well, we're well past 350 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and the number is still going up, not down. Our current story says it's fine to fly and take cruises. Continue using fossil fuels. We need cruises because of the economy. Tourism's fun. But I want to live a different story. One where we don't continue to put profit over life on Earth. I want to help write a different story by making people aware of the danger. We are experiencing the consequences of a heating planet. Wildfires, droughts, heat waves all across the U.S. Torrential rainfall leading to deadly flooding in southern China, India, Bangladesh. Record-breaking catastrophic floods wiped out the northern segment of Yellowstone National Park last week. Cruise ships are non-essential. If we continue with la-di-da, business as usual, but I love cruises behavior, we are continuing on a path to extinction.
We must care for all life, not just human life, but also the creatures in the ocean, the river, and the soil. The abuse of power that the male-led Supreme Court exercised in striking down a woman's right to control her own body was the result of unchecked patriarchal domination. Those same forces are at work within the economic institutions of this country, where corporations and many in government view Mother Earth as a resource to plunder and exploit for their own selfish benefit. We are only one species in the circle of life. I speak today for the orcas, the gray whales, humpbacks, sea lions, porpoise, seals, otters, salmon, squid, halibut, rockfish, herring, eagles, kingfisher, ducks, geese, cormorants, gulls, clams, oysters, crabs, starfish, mussels, barnacles, and all sentient beings that depend upon the health of our oceans, of nature calling us home. I invite you to listen for a moment and just connect with your breath, feel your feet on the ground as we listen to one of our relatives here. So that was one of our orca friends, just trying to live. We don't need to get on a plane or a cruise ship to find peace and happiness and connection. If you look for it somewhere other than your own heart, you won't find it. And doing so, you will only perpetuate an out-of-balance culture. Many years ago, a whale appeared in a dream to me and told me it was my responsibility to do what I could to protect life, because there might not be much time left for the world we know. Native Americans have been speaking for generations about the need to bring our lives into balance with Mother Earth. The Hopi prophecy refers to this time as the Great Purification. We can heal. We can create our destiny and heal our world if we collectively wake up and realize we aren't separate from the web, but merely one strand within it. We need to change how we live on this planet, or else the sixth great extinction of the Anthropocene will continue to accelerate. Scientists advising the UN Biodiversity Convention estimate that 150 to 200 species of plants, insects, birds, and mammals are going extinct every 24 hours now. This is nearly 1,000 times the natural rate, and more than anything this world has experienced since the dinosaurs disappeared 65 million years ago. Ship strikes are increasingly common. The average cruising speed of a cruise ship is around 25 miles an hour. When a 100,000-ton ship traveling that fast hits a whale, the whale has zero chance to survive. Death on impact. Cruise ship engines and propellers add to the already overwhelming underwater noise that cetaceans must endure. Before the era of modern shipping, whales could communicate across vast distances, hundreds if not thousands of miles, but no more. Whales and other animals of the sea live with the constant stress of ship noise 24/7. Cruise ships are a relatively small portion of that, but their combined impact on the environment is orders of magnitude larger due to up to 9,000 crew and passengers on a single cruise ship. Underwater noise interferes with the ability of orca to use their sonar to locate and feed on fish. This adds to the critical starvation issues already affecting southern resident orcas, who struggle to find enough food to eat. Garbage, gray water, and sewage are dumped, sometimes legally, sometimes illegally at sea, adding to the toxic soup that marine mammals and fish swim through, sometimes ending up in the seafood that people consume. Cruise companies often find it cheaper just to pay the occasional fine when they get caught illegally discharging, rather than change their business practices. Cruise ships use scrubbers in their smokestacks in order to reduce the black carbon, sulfur oxides, and other toxic air emissions. However, the heated scrubber water contaminated with these same toxins is usually dumped right back into the ocean. This does nothing to reduce overall global carbon emissions and just pollutes the water, creating localized toxic hotspots, increased acidification, and oxygen depletion. In other words, underwater death zones. Ship hulls are coated with toxic anti-fouling paints, biocidal products designed to prevent marine organisms from attaching and growing. These chemicals leach into the ocean. A week ago, I was kayaking off Discovery Park. 3 cruise ships were heading north to Alaska. You could hear the sound of disco music for miles. There are so few places in the world now where people can go to find peace and quiet. As we continued paddling, a brown haze trailed behind the ships and lingered long after they had disappeared to the north. At night, the light from cruise ships interferes with seabird colonies and migration. They become disoriented and fly in circles in the light, sometimes colliding with other birds, or until they are exhausted and fall from the sky. Many die on impact. So for any of the passengers about to board, we aren't here to ruin your dream vacation or lay a guilt trip on you. Nobody wants to change when backed into a corner like that and made to feel bad. Enjoy your cruise, but please make it your last one. I invite you to think about the circle of life, the 8 billion people and countless other beings on this planet, most of whom struggle to survive. May all beings, present and future, be peaceful and happy, safe and protected, healthy and well-nourished, live in a stable climate with clean air, clean water, safe communities, free from disease, famine, illness, and war. Thank you.
What kind of ancestor do you want to be? What are the children of the future asking you to do? What do you want your legacy to be? What do the oceans and seas require of us if we want to continue to depend on them for our survival on Earth? I invite you to choose one of these questions to plant in your heart. Nurture the deep meaning of the question daily. Watch how it sprouts and grows in the dark stillness and love in your heart. Follow its wisdom. These are not easy questions to sit with, not easy to answer, but all of our futures depend on us being willing to open our hearts to these questions and seek our heart's wisdom and guidance. And what I truly hope is that what sprouts and grows in your heart is your own way of speaking up for the oceans and the seas and for the earth itself. We all need to speak up for the earth, as the earth has no voice. As you watch the beauty of the seas and land around them on this cruise you're about to take, may your heart stay open to the fragile nature of the environment you are moving through. May the question you have seeded in your heart begin to sprout and offer you its wisdom. May you all be well, safe travels, and thank you.
Dear Port of Seattle Commissioners and staff, massive cruise ships are toxic to our air, water, and run on equally toxic, exploitative business model. We need to reduce cruise sailings from Seattle to Alaska with the ultimate goal of a cruise-free Salish Sea. Unfortunately, the green corridor of cruise ships that has been proposed in partnership with the cruise industry amounts to little more than greenwashing and business as usual that disregards science and common sense. We are in a climate crisis according to the International Panel on Climate Change. We must cut fossil fuel emissions almost in half by 2030 if we hope to avoid irreversible tipping points and an uninhabitable planet. 2050 is too late. We need massive emissions reductions right now, not in 28 years. While you are saying zero emissions, cruise companies are saying net zero, which is a big difference. Net zero allows carbon emissions to continue indefinitely. As long as the green corridor allows continued fossil fuel use, smokestack emissions will continue to impact the health of passengers, workers, and coastal communities all along this route. Shore power, even if used at all ports, would eliminate only a small fraction of the carcinogens and particulate matter emitted. With 80 to 90% of Seattle cruise passengers flying here, any real solution needs to count and eliminate those greenhouse gases that are also part of Seattle's cruise footprint. Voluntary and non-binding agreements like this one will never bring out the necessary change to this for-profit industry. The Green Corridor does nothing to address non-climate harms of the cruise industry. Though banned in Puget Sound, ships dump billions of gallons of sewage, trash, and toxic scrubber engine exhaust annually off the coast of Canada and Alaska. Engine noise from large ships interferes with the echolocation our endangered orcas use for hunting and mating. Cruise companies are permitted to fly flags of convenience, allowing them to avoid federal taxes, labor standards, and environmental protections. Labor exploitation of onboard workers includes a lack of medical care and protection from harassment, wages as low as $2 per hour, forcibly extended contracts, and dangerous working conditions. Your justification for staying in the cruise business in order to reform is not credible. The last 20+ years of your self-proclaimed advancements in safety, health, and environmental protections have been inadequate and ineffective. The water pollution you've banned in Puget Sound is now dumped off the coast of Canada and Alaska. Shore power was used by less than half of Seattle's ship calls last year, and it eliminated less than 1% of the ship's greenhouse gas emissions. Despite this year's increased health protocols, almost every cruise has had COVID outbreaks, and ships continue to violate U.S. safety laws. The death of a woman who went overboard from the Celebrity Solstice on May 17th was made much more likely because of Royal Caribbean Cruises Line's ongoing refusal to install an automatic man overboard detection tracking system, which has been legally required for over a decade. The port tries to justify its support of this harmful industry by saying, if we don't, someone else will. This logic clearly is unacceptable when applied to other harmful activities such as dealing drugs to school children or engaging in sex trafficking, and it's equally unacceptable for enabling the cruise industry to continue. Economic gains from harmful activities are tainted no matter what good projects they support. The port can and must do better. I urge Seattle to join Norway, Key West, and Charleston in making meaningful and effective actions instead of incremental changes that keep the cruise industry happy at the expense of our communities, waters, and climate. Require zero emissions vessels by 2030 is what we need to do. Limit the number of ship sailings is what we need to do. Do not renew leases as a home port for cruise. In Western capitalist society, we tend to ignore the highly dependent relationship we have with the Earth in favor of continuous economic growth and wealth accumulation. Nature becomes a resource to exploit instead of a relationship to nurture. In contrast, Wind Revere centers on the collection of well-being both of the environment and the community, which helps societies effectively address crises like climate change and future pandemics.
Have a great cruise.
Right around here.
Thank you. I'll read it, I promise.
Oh, thank you.
Checking the
Am I gonna feel bad?
No.
People gonna rise like the water. We're gonna face this crisis now. I hear the voice of my great granddaughter saying climate justice now.
Is that a cruise ship? Yep. That over here, the yellow rope.
Enjoy your cruise.
The yellow rope.
Okay. Thanks for saving paper.
I say cruise ships, you say cause harm. Cruise ships. Cruise ships. I say cruise ships, you say cause harm. Cruise ships. Cruise ships. We believe we need create solutions, not more pollution. No economy, no vacations,
It's good. It's your world we're fighting for.
no cruises,